What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another preview stream as Spurs face Leicester City away from home tomorrow. 3 p.m. kickoff. It's been a long time since we've had a 3 p.m. kickoff, and I think there's a whole range of 3 p.m. kickoffs tomorrow. So it's going to be like the old days, back to the classic days of football, 3 p.m. Saturday. But it is a big game. Obviously, Leicester on the back of a win coming into it. Impressive 4-2 win against Aston Villa. Spurs getting back to form as well on the back of a 1-0 win against Manchester City. But it ain't going to be no easy game this weekend. Leicester have had a very Jekyll and Hyde season so far, when with or without James Maddison. But how are you looking at this game, Sim? How confident are you?
I think the game is coming probably at a bad time to play Leicester, seeing as they're turning their form around. Last two games, 2-2 draw at home to Brighton, who are in great form. And then obviously a 4-2 victory over an in-form Aston Villa side under Unai Emery. So they're definitely starting to turn things around. They've had a couple of decent additions in January as well. They signed Christensen at left-back, and they got Harry Suter at centre-back as well. So they've got some decent additions to help the back line. James Maddison is just coming back into the team, and he's a massive part of how they play, and he's had an exceptional season. Iheanacho, potentially they've now starting to find a role for him in the team after a long time. They haven't really known how to use him, although I think he's a fairly decent striker. They just haven't been able to get him in the team, Iheanacho. They don't fancy him up front on his own. They don't like to play a two up top. So I think they're getting players around him like Barnes. Now they got Tete there as well. They were linking up quite well away at Villa. So we're not facing them at the best time. Maybe a couple of games ago would have been a good time after a run of defeats. Now they're getting back on form, and their attacking talent. I think they've got one of the best attacks in the bottom half, in my opinion. They've got a top half attack with some of their players, at least. Probably. I would argue probably a top 6 attack. Not top 6, that's a bit much, but maybe top 8. Like, I reckon if you compare them to Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, I think they've got better attacking players. I think with Barnes and Maddison, and maybe now Tete adding to that. I think they've got top attacking players there.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, they have been a top 8 side for the most part of the last 5 years. Let's be honest. I mean, since last season when it all started to go wrong, they were a top 8 side. So it doesn't surprise me that. And when you're looking at maybe their attacks compared to Brighton, compared to Fulham, they've obviously got standout players with, like, Brighton got Mitoma, Fulham have got Mitrovic. I think Leicester, they're missing that standout player like they had with Jamie Vardy when he was on form. Yeah, Maddison. Maddison is the guy, but I think he's going to be off in this summer. But I think right now, yeah, you're right. They do have the standout guy in James Maddison, but they've struggled to get him on the pitch at times this season with his injuries.
But that's what I'm saying. He's come back now, and they're starting to score goals. They've scored 6 goals in their last 2 games, 4 goals away at Villa.
And their stats are completely telling with and without James Maddison this season. It's crazy when you look at it. In their last 10 games, they've lost 5 games. 4 of those have been without James Maddison. And the one game which they did lose without James Maddison was against Man City.
Right.
So, they'll probably have lost that anyway with James Maddison. So I think that it's very telling with or without Maddison. He's the one that makes them click. As soon as he's come back, a sub-appearance against Brighton, they get a 2-2 draw against Brighton, and he starts the game against Villa, and the goals start to flow, and they win 4-2.
Yeah, they have the upside for me. Obviously, the downside is their attack seems to be clicking now, and with Maddison back. But the upside is they haven't kept a clean sheet since the restart. After they went on a bit of a run of clean sheets, didn't they? Just before the restart, before the World Cup, sorry. So they haven't kept a clean sheet. In their last 2 games, they're still conceding goals. They've conceded 2 goals. In the last 3 games, they've conceded 2 goals. And actually in 4 in their last 5 games, they've conceded... No, 5 of their last 6, they've conceded at least 2 goals a game. So... that gives me encouragement. If we can kind of just make sure we're keeping Maddison quiet and make sure that when Leicester are in the ascendancy, we're not giving them any clear-cut chances, I think there's going to be chances for us for sure in this game.
Yeah, there will be. And I think that, like you say, only 1 game since they've come back from the World Cup, they haven't conceded 2 goals in, and that was a 1-0 defeat to Fulham at Craven Cottage. So, at the King Power. So I think that, yeah, there's definitely going to be opportunities for us. I think that the way we're playing at the moment, we'll carve out our own opportunities as well with the likes of Harry Kane, Heung-min Son. And I think it's a perfect game for the likes of Sonny as well. We always know he always likes to go against Leicester. He always performs against Leicester. And also Harry Kane, the most goals he's scored against in his career have been against Leicester. I think it's 18 goals. Or
Yeah, he's got a great record.
So both of our talismans in Son and Kane have great records against Leicester. So hopefully it can carry on this weekend. And that, like we say, there'll be opportunities. They're conceding a lot of goals recently, and this is a game that always throws up goals. Always throws up goals. So if you look at the head-to-head, look at the amount of goals in these games. 6-2 last game, 3-1 the game before, 3-2 the game before, 4-2 before that, and a 2-0 loss.
And we didn't we beat them 5-4 at Wembley as well?
And 5-4
that wasn't too long ago.
Nearly got a hat-trick that day.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago as well. So this is a goal. This is a game full of goals, isn't it?
Yeah,
usually
it is, and I don't think this weekend will be any different. Hopefully, we'll be a bit more solid at the back, and we'll hurt them more going the other way. But with Romero out injured, with Emerson performing the way he is, what would you like to see in the back line?
I would like to see maybe something a bit different with Emerson being there. I don't think we will see it, but I do think the management will put a bit of trust in Sanchez. I do think because I think he's got a good relationship with Conte. But I would be interested to see how Emerson would do at right centre back. Well, with Porro coming in, because I really want to see Porro just get right into it already.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep delaying his debut on and on each week, and then all of a sudden, like maybe we're going to need him for a big game, and he's going to have to play, and he's not settled into the team yet. I want to get him into the team like as soon as possible.
It feels like that moment when we were dying to see Hugo Lloris sign when we signed him. We just kept playing Brad Friedel.
Yeah, because he was in good form.
Yeah.
And Emerson now, look, to be fair, he does have the shirt, so I don't want to see him dropped. But I would like to see him at right centre back because I think he has the right profile for that position. I think defensively he's good, aerially he's good. Obviously, there'll be hesitations about his ability to play out of the back in that position. But I also think, it would really, in my opinion, it would really allow Porro to really push up the pitch and get high up because Emerson, being a natural fullback, can cover that position on the right hand side. He can go into the wide areas, and he's quick, he's strong. He can cover you there. So I would really be interested to see how that would work out. I think it could, in theory. I don't see why it wouldn't work. You've seen right backs before, like Azpilicueta, for example, and even, for example, Ben Davis, natural fullbacks who can fill in those centre-back roles because they fit the profile. Usually it's more the defensive-minded fullbacks who can do that role. And I think Emerson should be able to do it perfectly. Yeah. Obviously, that would mean they would have to have trained with it during the week, and he would have to be adapted to that role. So whether they've thought about it ahead of time, that will be telling of whether they actually do that. There's a lot of talk within the fan base, obviously no real talk within the club or the management that it's an actual possibility. So I think it's probably just all hypothetical, this, and you probably will start a wing back on Saturday. But I'm just thinking logically, him at that profile, I just don't see why it wouldn't work. Yeah,
and obviously his aerial ability as well, which is really good. One of the best headers of the ball in our back line, which will stand us in good stead. And also, these are the games where Emerson doesn't perform in at right wing back. We've seen him perform against these kind of teams where there's a lot of space for us attacking, and he doesn't make most use out of the space that we would like to see him do. So I think this is the perfect game for Porro to make his debut in, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah, I would love to see him.
So much space down there for him, and he can get down to the byline, get those crosses in, arrive late at the back post for Perisic as well. I love this. I can't wait to see that dynamic of Perisic and Porro on either flanks.
And Leicester with Christensen, he's quite. They've just signed a new left back, and he's quite an offensive wing back as well. So he likes to get forward, and that could easily. You could look at it two ways. You could look at it like you could have Emerson there to maybe just keep him quiet and make sure there's nothing coming down that side, or you can say, if you put Porro in there, considering he's offensive, maybe he's got a better chance of taking him on and creating something, and maybe as well it could push him back because Porro is going to be very offensive. So there's two ways of looking at it, but I would be very interested to see how Porro starts in this game. Obviously, again, they were talking him up in his press conference about how exciting a talent he is, and they can't wait to get him on the pitch. But at the moment, Emerson's playing very well. 2 good performances in the Premier League in a row. So I think it would be very hard to take him out from that point of view. I guess you've got to set a culture that you earn your place, and you can't say that Emerson hasn't earned his place.
Yeah.
So I do think he's going to start, but I want to see Porro in the flesh as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at, I mean, we've touched on it a bit already, but let's bring up the graphic for the form with the two sides. I'm just looking at where Leicester are. They are the second worst home team in the Premier League this season. We've picked up only 9 points from 10 games. I mean, what is it about Leicester? Why have they been so poor over the past year with Brendan Rodgers, with the players that they have? I mean, with the squad that they have, they should nowhere near be near the bottom 3.
Yeah, I think first problem is dealing with the decline of Vardy. He's now getting on. He's no longer fit for purpose, and they're trying to find a natural replacement for him because he's been a natural just source of goals throughout his time at Leicester. For so many years, they can just rely on him for goals, and that's no longer the case. So, they've gone with Daka, they've gone with Iheanacho occasionally this season, but they haven't just kind of found a guy just yet that they can rely on as much as Vardy for goals in the striking department. Obviously, they've got Maddison, who's been unbelievable in attacking midfield, and he's been brilliant, but they need more than him. They need a striker who's going to be clinical. So that's one problem. Another problem is the form of Wilfred Indeed, and form and fitness of Wilfred Indeed has led to a big hole in the midfield. Tielemans, he's back now. Tielemans and first, what's his name? Bakary Samare, they spent a lot of money on him. He hasn't really been good.
Yeah, he's out injured as well.
He's out injured. He's not been great. Mendy's never been great. And then Tielemans and Dewsbury Hall are good technical midfielders, but you can overrun them. Physically, they're not there. And they used to have Kante and then Indeed, and they used to do brilliant roles for them. But obviously, they're finding it hard to replace them right now. Well, we'll get Indeed on the pitch anyway. And when he is on the pitch, Indeed, he's not doesn't seem to do the same player right now as he was maybe a couple of years ago. I'm not sure why that is, but that's also a big problem with Leicester. And then their backline is pretty poor. I'm not going to lie. For a lot of the season,
I like Souttar, to be fair.
Yeah, but he's only just signed.
Yeah.
So they've gone some way to maybe rectifying. Although in his 2 games he has conceded 4 goals.
Scored an own goal as well.
And he scored an own goal. So, or was his debut Villa?
I think it was his debut.
Okay, so in his first game they conceded 2 goals and he scored an own goal. So, and he's coming from the Championship. You got to remember. So. You can't really expect him to solve all their defensive problems. Their wing backs have been poor this season, and then Faust.
I like him.
Faust has been okay. He's scored 2 own goals at Liverpool.
Own goals, yeah.
He's been all right, and then obviously as well, a big one in my opinion is the keeper. Ward and Everson are no Schmeichel. Schmeichel was not. I guess a big part of it is the leadership. Schmeichel obviously getting on a bit with his age, but he was still a good keeper. But what he brought to the team was leadership skills, ability to organise a defence. He was a leader on the pitch, telling people where to go. And I think they lost a lot of that leadership. They've lost Schmeichel. They've lost Morgan in the last couple of years. They've lost, obviously, Vardy is starting to decline quite a lot. So they're lacking that real leader on the pitch, and that's leading to their defence being a bit of a shambles this season, to be honest. And I think there's a bit of both. There's a bit of lack of quality in the defence and definitely lack of leadership there as well, which maybe you can get by with below average defenders if you have a better leadership structure there. But with that going, and Danny Ward, he's not been great. They did go through a period where it looked like they were starting to get defensive right, but ever since the World Cup started again, it's reverted back to how it was before that period.
The defence was just going for a bit of good form at that point. Danny Ward was playing well as well, but they've all reverted back to type pretty much after the World Cup. Another player I want to talk to you about is Yuri Tielemans. Obviously out of contract in the summer. Maybe fits the profile of the midfielder that we need coming into Spurs. He's been linked with the likes of Arsenal, I think Manchester United as well. Would you like to see him?
I would. I think he's a really good player. I think he suits us. He's got such great ability on the ball with his long-range efforts and long-range passing as well. I think he, for his first few years at Leicester, he was really great. And then last season, he took quite a big dip when it looked like maybe he was unsettled, maybe he was looking for a move. The move never happened in the summer, and he's kind of come back into form a bit this season. I don't think he's kind of hit the heights yet that he had before that form, but he's still come back into form a bit, and he's performing a lot better than he did last season.
3 goals and an assist this season.
Yeah, decent. The only worry I would have with him in our formation is playing him in a 3-4-3. I think you can do it, if you got him alongside, let's say, a Bentancur, who can do a lot of the running for him potentially, and then maybe if you're playing in a game where we're not going to dominate possession, I think he would be good. In a game, for example, like Man City, like I don't think he could do a job. Like he would be, I think would be too open in that game with him in a two in midfield in that kind of game. So in that sense, you would have to either play him in a game against like lower half teams with partnered with a Bentancur, or you'd have to play him in a 3-5-2, and I think he'd do really well in a 3-5-2.
But I mean, these midfielders that we're asking for is to come in those kind of games, isn't it? Because against the Man Cities and the Liverpools, I mean, we'd probably want to play two players like Højbjerg and a Bentancur anyway, wouldn't we?
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, the midfielder of the profile that we're looking for is for those kind of games. So, I think it would be a really good signing for us for the money, for, free.
Yeah, and sign a contract.
As a free signing, can you get much better in that position?
Yeah, and with Arsenal now probably out the running with Jorginho coming in on a permanent, Xhaka's still there in form.
Such a short-term deal, Jorginho, though. I don't think they're out the running.
12 million?
Short-term, 2 years, isn't it? 2-year deal?
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they spend 12 million on Jorginho and have Xhaka there.
I think
with a view of signing another one.
I think they are in the market for another midfielder in the summer, and I think Xhaka could be coming to the end of his time at Arsenal as well.
Do you think he'll leave in the summer?
As Lokonga, who's probably going to leave. I can see Xhaka leaving in the summer if they upgrade. They're looking at Declan Rice, for over 100 million as well. So I still think Arsenal are in the market for another central midfielder.
Yeah,
in the
Declan
summer.
Rice. Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I feel like they've got Jorginho and Xhaka there. I don't see them adding Tielemans right now to that, in my opinion. Rice is a different matter. When you get a chance to sign someone like Rice and he can partner Partey as well, then you do it. I don't know if they'll go for Tielemans. Like if they were that desperate for him, they would have gotten him last summer.
Yeah, I think they want 4 midfielders, two midfielders to cover both positions that are high quality. At the moment, they've got 3. So I think one more they'll probably need.
Yeah, but I'm saying Tielemans is like the passer of the team. They got Xhaka and they've got Jorginho for that role.
I don't know how long. Well, anyway, we can talk about. We can go back to Spurs, but I don't think Jorginho is the long-term answer for them. And if they got the opportunity to sign Tielemans for free, then they'll probably get rid of Jorginho after a short time.
Maybe. I spent 12 million on him.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think Tielemans would be a very good option for us. Well, there will be some competition, but if we can get top 4 again this season, get back in the Champions League and retain that, or even win a trophy, I think it can go a long way to convincing him that we will be a good place for him.
All right, well, let's move on and talk about the ones to watch with Maddison and Tete. I mean, we spoke about Maddison a lot. He is their danger man. Everything goes through them. I mean, when he's not scoring, they rarely are scoring. But 8 goals and 4 assists in 15 games is amazing stats. And if you're talking about a player that we need, I mean, surely he's one that we really need.
Definitely. I think he can cover the right number 10. He can cover one of the midfield positions as well. He can probably play on the left if need be. I think we don't have anyone near his profile in the squad right now. I think he's an exceptional talent. We could have had him, annoyingly, when he was at Norwich. And obviously Leicester pipped us to him at the time. I think a lot of people were calling for us to sign him. But a lot of people weren't sure as well because he was from the Championship. But he's turned into probably one of the best number 10s in the Premier League. Arguably, just behind Odegaard, Bruno, maybe KDB you can say is number 10. Like he's up there with some of the best in the league right now.
He's the best number 10 outside the top 4.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and I think he's obviously adding more goal contributions to his game. He's always had regular goal contributions, but he's adding a lot more goals as well. Obviously, his free kicks, we don't really have a great free kick taker. He would be unbelievable for that as well. Someone who's really actually deadly in those set-piece situations. I would love him through the door. I would absolutely love him. I get the feeling that we won't spend the kind of outlay required to get him in for a player who necessarily isn't guaranteed to start every game. I think it would be worth it, in my opinion, but I reckon the hierarchy wouldn't do it. But anyway, just to go on to him in this game, he's the one who's going to be the big danger man. If you stop him from really threading through balls and getting shots off and dictating things for Leicester, he's like the real difference maker at the moment for them in the final third, and he's been exceptional this season.
Yeah, he really has. And I didn't realise, but he's only got a year left in his contract in this summer. So maybe you can get a good deal for him. He'll be relatively less to what we would have paid last summer. I
can't see him signing a contract as well. Surely he's going to be going somewhere.
Yeah. So it might be worth biding our time with it and seeing what we can do in the summer and maybe even next January, if he hasn't moved by then. But the other player that we've got here is Tete, brand new signing for Leicester from Lyon. He scored on his debut in the 4-2 win against Aston Villa, and 7 goals, 5 assists for his time at Lyon this season in 20 games. And he was on that list, wasn't he, that Ali Gold gave us at the beginning of the January transfer window, that players that we were looking at. Funnily enough, Danjuma wasn't on that list, but I was really impressed with him watching that Leicester game. Really tricky customer, fast, got supreme ability, and he looks like a top player, to be honest.
Look, it's very early days, but it's smart business. They needed someone on the right-hand side to really to match the threat they get from Harvey Barnes on the left, who I think is also having a very strong season again. I really like Harvey Barnes. I really wanted Spurs to be interested in him, but I think the difference between getting someone like Tete for someone like Spurs and Leicester is that Leicester had to spend 37 million on him, and Spurs got Danjuma on a loan deal with a 2 million loan deal with an option to buy for like 25 million or whatever it is. So that's probably why we went for Danjuma, as lower risk. We know if we go big on Tete and he turns out not to be as good as we'd hoped, then all of a sudden we've got a 40 million pound player who's not great, whereas Danjuma's the loan deal. For Leicester, I think it's worth the risk. Someone who will come in straight away on that right hand side, got high potential, very quick, can really upgrade their attack. So I think it's smart business, get ahead of the competition as well, whereas Tottenham are dawdling and not sure whether they want him or not, because they're not sure whether they'll play him. He goes to Leicester immediately into the first team and he can really develop there.
Tottenham do that with every player that they're linked with, let's be honest.
Yeah, I just think it's smart business from Leicester, because I think he was clearly highly sought after by a lot of players. A lot of clubs were looking at him, and they stole in ahead by guaranteeing him first team football, and they paid the money. So I think we're going to be facing a Leicester team which is a lot more offensively dangerous compared to most of their season, because now they got. Also, if you look at Iheanacho, he played a brilliant role against Leicester, like in that false 9. He got 2 goals and
2 assists and a goal.
Yeah, he plays a really good job, like with his link-up play. He was one of his biggest strengths, Iheanacho. He's really good at through balls and things like that. And he's now there.
That Iheanacho has. I mean, I've rated Iheanacho in the past. Remember when he was at Man City, and then later on when Leicester signed him, he started life really well there. And you see games from Iheanacho and you're like, wow, what a player. But then, he just doesn't do it often enough, and he's so inconsistent, isn't he?
He needs, I think a lot of the time he's played up front by himself. And for example, someone like Vardy and Daka, right? You get them up front by themselves. You can just get through balls or balls over the top to them, and they can run onto things and are really good at finishing. Iheanacho's a very different striker to those. He likes to drop deep. He likes to. He's a bit more of a poacher. He likes to link up the play as well. He's really good at bringing players into play, but what he needs is people around him. Iheanacho, he can't do what Vardy and Daka do with their runs in behind. He's a very different kind of skill set, and I think they use him. They've tended to use him a lot, either in a front two, so he can link up with the striker, or when they do use him up front by himself, it hasn't quite worked. They expect him to do the same job as Vardy, and he can't quite do that. But now, with Barnes and Tete around him and Maddison as well there, I think they can get the best out of him if he can play him in the role, link it, kind of dropping deep, link up with Maddison, playing the runners of Barnes and Tete out wide as well in behind. And it was case in point, his through ball to Tete for his goal on his debut. That's exactly what they need to start doing to bring the best out of Iheanacho. And I'm worried that they might have just started to click with him just as we're facing him.
We'll see, because I've seen games where he has clicked before, but for me, he's just way too inconsistent in that Leicester side. I mean, he's joined there in 2017.
Yeah.
He's only hit above 5 goals in one season for them, which is nowhere near good enough. That season he was really good, 12 goals and 2 games. He really found his form that season, but apart from that, he hasn't hit 5. He's hit 5 once. In all that time, and it's nowhere near good enough for a player of his quality, in my opinion. And Patson Daka as well. He's another one where he's got a lot of quality about him. We've seen him perform really well on the odd occasion, but they can't seem to get it regularly out of him form.
Here's a question. I agree with that, by the way. He hasn't quite acclimatised to the Premier League just yet. But here's a question. Just talking about tactically, Stellini in the press conference spoke about how he devised a plan with Mason to have Dyer become more aggressive because he noticed Bernardo Silva was playing in between the lines, and obviously you got Bentancur and Højbjerg playing in the middle, and they don't want them to drop too deep. They want them to keep that high pressing. Do you think he does the same with Maddison here? Get Dyer to be really aggressive against him, or do you think maybe with Conte back, he's going to want to assess it himself potentially?
I think maybe they'll make an in-game judgment. I think they'll start off maybe the way they started off against Man City, and if they see Maddison's getting a lot of joy in those spaces, then yeah, I think that instruction will come out again.
Because you've got to be a bit more careful, because in this game, in a weird way, than against City, because in a weird way, Dyer coming out and being aggressive against Bernardo in that game, you weren't going to be, apart from obviously you got Haaland there, but when it comes to the wide men, Grealish and Mahrez, they're not like the biggest threat in terms of running in behind and attacking that space when you leave the space open, and like just run those runs from out to in and really attacking in behind.
They had Alvarez as well, to be fair.
They did. They did have Alvarez as well. But I'm saying, like, Harvey Barnes and Tete, you saw against Villa, they were making those runs from out to in constantly, and if you leave that space for them, you just got to be wary of those runs completely, and it's going to be a big job of the wide centre-backs to fill in that space. If Dyer does become really aggressive and make sure that Maddison's not getting joy, we just got to make sure that the threat is different in this game to City, is my point. City's more like, they like to play in front of you and like play pretty patterns, where Leicester at the moment they're looking to get in behind and attack that space with their pacey wingers. So it's going to be interesting to see that battle play out.
Yeah, and I think that the way our defence is playing at the moment, with the amount of clean sheets we got behind ourselves in the last couple of games, I think Spurs defence will be confident to shut Leicester out this weekend, and we just need to make the most out of it going the other end, because we're going to have a lot of chances this weekend, and we just need to take our chances. And if we do that, I think it'll be quite a comprehensive victory for Spurs this weekend.
Yeah, I hope so. We just need to make sure no mistakes. We're controlling the defensive phase of the game, and if we're doing that, I can't see how Leicester can control our front line. I think we like, Kane is in great form. Hopefully Son's starting to come back. Kulusevski is Kulusevski, and then we've got 2 subs as well, Danjuma and Richarlison to bring on if need be, Mora, and also Porro potentially. So I think the chances will be there. It's about whether we can make sure we're as defensively solid as we have been, and we'll win.
Absolutely. So what score prediction are you going for?
I'm going to go with 3-1.
3-1.
3-1 to Spurs. I reckon we'll take a 2-0 lead. They'll get a goal back, and we'll seal it with a third.
I'm going to go for an even bigger scoreline. I think I'm going to go for something like 4-2 tomorrow.
4-2.
I think it's going to be a bit of a battle at the King Power. I think we will come out on top. Without Romero, who worries me a little bit. Without Lloris, worries me a little bit. Bissouma as well, which we didn't talk about, is out for it sounds like a long time, doesn't it? The Bissouma injury.
Surgery on a fracture on his foot, isn't it? So doesn't sound great. We'll have to wait and see what. I mean, it'll be such a disappointment if he is ruled out for the rest of the season. That would be very disappointing, because he just won't have a chance to kind of show the Spurs fans in his first, like, you can pretty much say after his first season then he's been a flop, because what he's shown isn't the level that we would hoped. But if he can get back and back on the pitch and have a chance at least to redeem himself this season, then that's better. But it'd be such a blow a bit if he is ruled out for the rest of the season.
Anyway, I'm going to go 4-2 to Spurs. I think we might go 1-0 down in this one and then come back and win the game. But, you're going to have 2 very good attacks going at each other in this one. And historically, well, maybe not historically, but during the Premier League this season, probably 2 of the worst defences going against each other as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of goals. Obviously, Spurs' defence have shored it up a little bit over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully that will stand us in good stead. But I'm confident of taking all 3 points this weekend. So I'm going 4-2. Sim's going 3-1. Let us know in the comment section below what your score predictions are. But let's get on to BetMate before we start bringing on guests. fantasy gaming app where you get rewarded for defensive actions. So Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Bentancur really are producing for us in BetMate this year, and it's a £5 entry for a £600 guaranteed pot this weekend. And it's not just the Spurs-Leicester game, but it's all the 3 p.m. kickoffs. You get to pick a maximum of 2 players per team. So let's get into our team, and let's start off with mine. And I've gone for Leno in goal. They're at home to Nottingham Forest, so I'm imagining him to make a few saves and hopefully a clean sheet as well. In defence, I've gone for Semedo and Ivan Perisic. Hopefully, Ivan Perisic can get down that left-hand flank and produce some assists and maybe even a clean sheet for Tottenham against Leicester. Semedo, I've backed Wolves to beat Southampton this weekend, so hopefully Semedo can either keep a clean sheet or get some contributions. Definitely some tackles and interceptions in there from him. In midfield, I've gone for a defensive duo. I've gone for Sheikh Doucouré of Crystal Palace in the derby against Brighton. I think he's going to be right at it in the middle, very much involved. Ruben Neves scored last week and maybe can get on the score sheet again this weekend. Takes their set pieces, so hopefully a goal contribution, and he's always good for interceptions and tackles. And then up front, I've got Harry Kane as my captain and Alexander Mitrovic as well, playing against Nottingham Forest.
And for me, I've got Jose Sarr in goal, who I think Southampton are going to come with a new attitude in this game. Will it be enough to get goals? But I reckon he's going to make a lot of saves, in my opinion. So I've got him in goal. I've got Robinson at home to Forest. I think he's good for potentially attacking returns from wing back for Fulham at home and maybe a clean sheet. Estepinian away at Palace in the derby. So I'm thinking he could be well up for it. In midfield, Mitoma. Also away at Palace, he's in unbelievable form right now, so it's hard to ignore. And Ruben Neves away at Wolves, he's also scoring goals at the moment for Wolverhampton, so I've got him in my team. And then the front two, I can't get away from Kane captain and Son vice. I reckon they could make a killing on the counter-attack in this game against Leicester, so I've gone for those two up top.
All right, so there you have it. That is our BetMate teams for this weekend.
And also, just quickly mention as well the February freebie.
Oh yeah,
for BetMate, they've got 3 free pots going around this February for West Ham, Chelsea, Leeds, Man United, and Liverpool versus Everton on the weekend. So if you download the app, download the BetMate app, then you can play for free. You can play for free on those 3 pots.
All right, and obviously, and if you want a free £5 for new users, the code is WATTV5. So come and join us, come and take us on and see who comes out on top this weekend.